Sunday, March 31, 2013. This is Mercedes Diesel Guy, and this is my 1995 Subaru Legacy L Outback. I am finishing up all the overdue maintenance and repair items today, just to get to the car to a point where I consider it fully reliable. And I'm on to my final item, which is cooling and heating hoses. This hose here, which is a good example of the rest of the system, really just is not as pliable as it should be. In my experience, these hoses will probably be fine until the middle of the summer, when it's 100 degrees out, I'm driving, and all of a sudden there's so much heat and pressure that one of the hoses pops, which has happened to me on the road. So I suspect that all the cooling and heating hoses might be original to the car. You can see this is a factory style hose clamp right here, and it looks like it's been there forever. This one's replaced, but the radiator itself has been replaced with a used one out of a 96 Outback, once again by some mechanic previously. So even though the guy I bought the car from said that he had replaced all the fluids, which wasn't the case, but I do believe the car came with fresh coolant a couple of months ago. I'm going to have to end up replacing the coolant again today. But the first thing to do is replace all the hoses. And I'm not going to do too much of a DIY on that. I'm just going to show you where all the hoses are, because aside from, breaking and cutting away old hose clamps, there's really not much to it. But basically I'll show you the main system hoses. First there is this upper radiator hose. And then down here, you can see the lower radiator hose, and I'll get into the car and get you a better look at that. So here is the lower radiator hose seen from below, and I'm down here so I can also show you this bypass hose, which goes from the thermostat housing up here. And then up top here in the engine compartment, there's a few more. There are the two that go to the heater core, which you can see right here, going into the firewall on opposite sides of the ignition control module, and they attach to the engine right down here. You can see with those two hose clamps, and once again these look original to the car. And the last one, which is a little harder to get to, is this one that goes to the intake manifold, which is right down here and seems pretty hard and brittle. So I don't know, the only other thing to tell you is that you need to wait for the car to cool down, and you need to drain out the radiator. So not much more to it than that. I'm going to be replacing these, see how many, I believe that's 6 hoses today, and replacing the coolant, and then the car should be nice and rock solid. Obviously I'm going to be using brand new hose clamps everywhere, and fresh coolant. So okay, I have the upper radiator hose, the lower hose, and the bypass hose in. Now I'm working on the heater hoses and the hose to the throttle body. And just wanted to show you one thing here on the hoses going to the heater core. Both of them, one of them is still in the car, have this protective boot here over the hose, which I think is to protect the hose from abrasion and wear through. Well, I've never really been able to get one of these off the old hose, so what I tend to do, and it has always worked in the past, is I take an old bicycle inner tube and I just cut a roughly equivalent length and slip it around the appropriate section of the hose. Now it will sit much looser than the original, but does the same job, and otherwise you'll never know the difference. So if you can't get a hold of the correct boot piece, which I say should come on these hoses but doesn't, just cut up a bicycle inner tube, slice it and slip it over, and you're done.